The early Christian woman who probably is the number one woman to capture the imagination these days is Mary the Magdalene. And believe it or not, around Easter, in a lot of churches, especially the Catholic Church is notorious for this, the homily kind of skips over Mary Magdalene's role, believe it or not. They just eliminate those verses. So today it's kind of hard to find ancient evidence for Mary Magdalene other than the Gospels, although there is the Gospel of Mary and Acts of Philip and some other very provocative material that indicates that at least a woman named Mary remained well known as an early Christian leader and as a leader of the apostles. So in the Catholic Church in particular, and I think in evangelical churches as well, you get this kind of saying that, well, Jesus chose 12 men to be his apostles, so only men can be priests, only men can be at the altar table, only men can be the leaders. And it's conveniently overlooked that if you have this in the same metaphor, Jesus chose a woman, Mary Magdalene, and women to go and teach men, to go and give the most important message in Christendom to the disbelieving, foolish, frightened men. So if these men are the priests, then by the same metaphor, these women would be their bishops. But that's been forgotten. So there is an artifact which depicts the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, which is over the site that was believed to be the cave where Jesus's body was buried and where Mary Magdalene and the women saw the risen Christ and he sent them on the mission. So it's very interesting to see what the liturgy is like in this, as depicted on this ivory pyx of this artifact. And before we do that, there's something I gotta warn you that first I want to do a little head game. So I'm going to just do a slight head game here. So this is the ivory pyx. And we see the altar area with this table and a lamp and curtains around it and a ciborium over it, the canopy over the altar. And we see two people with censers coming towards it. And it's round like the rotunda of the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, the famous rotunda. And as we go around the side of the pyx, the sculptor carved a procession to the altar. Very beautifully carved. And as we look at this, and I have just started using this, when we see men in this position, it's easy for us to think, oh, well, we understand that these are priests and bishops and deacons. And this actually is the third oldest artifact to depict people at the altar table of a real church, and it is the very oldest to depict only one sex in that role. But what happens when we realize that these are women who have been depicted? So let's look at them again. These are women in this liturgical procession, not men, women, and only women. It's a liturgical procession of women in the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, which is a site of where Jesus met the women and sent them as apostles to the apostles, or as Pope Francis calls Mary Magdalene these days, the apostle to the apostles. So to me, I think what we have here is liturgical traditions of the Magdalene. And I'm just starting work on this project, but I think it has a lot of promise. And I think it's very appropriate to bring it here the Sunday after Easter. I'm going to come back in a minute and just share some final thoughts. and we'll talk a little bit more.